Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Diane Deziel and today I'm going to do with you the basic skirt block, and to do that we're going to start right away with the measurement that we'll need. So first the waist. Before taking your measurement, I suggest you place an elastic at your waist, move a little bit, and when it's in the right position you could take your measurement all around. The second measurement is the hip level. And to do that, you could measure 21 centimeters down or about, and you take the measurement of the strongest place on your hip level. So you take this measurement, put these measurements and put them down on a paper. I'll show you what to do with it. So now that you got your hip measurement and waist measurement, I want you to do a few little calculations so you're ready to do your plan. So you take your hip and waist, divide them by 2. I put measurement here for my for today's example, and you take the same measurement, divide it in a quarter. Usually the total ease that we put for the hip level is minimum of 2 to maximum of 4 centimeters, and today I'm going to use 1/4 of the ease, and at the waist it's 1 to 2 centimeters, so minimum to maximum, and today I'll be using 0.25 ease. Other information I put on this paper is the dart measurement. So the dart size is 3 cm on the back and 2 cm on the front. Then we're going to do another little calculation for the position of the dart. So you take the half hip and you divide it by 6. So here's my example. So my dart back and front will be from the center 7.8. Now the last calculation is to have a balanced side seam. That means with the same shape on both sides, front and back. So the calculation is here: half hip minus half waist minus the 2 darts, so back and front dart, and minus the ease, half the ease you want all around your skirt at the waist. So here's my calculation. So what you get, the difference that you get, you divide it by 2, and we're going to place this measurement, so 3.5 for me, on each side of the side seam. If you want this paper, I put it available on my site in the free PDF download. Today, to start the plan, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to start with the seam allowance because I want you to do the plan with seam allowance to eliminate the retracing, because you might lose accuracy. So because it's a so easy plan to do, I'm going to start with a 2 centimeter seam allowance, and that's my center back. So I trace my center back, the length that you need, and in that case I'm going to do it 45 centimeter. And from the top point, I'm going to measure the hip level at 21 centimeters. From these 3 points, I'm going to trace a line square from my center back. You're going to start placing your measurement. So for the back, we're going to need the 1/4 of the hip plus 5 millimeter ease, but minus 0.5 because it's the back. We'll add this 0.5 to the front just a little later. And from that point, you're going to square up and down. Now we're going to add 2 more lines on at the side seam. We have the back side seam. We're going to put a seam allowance right away for the back, and I'm not going to trace all the way up. And you're going to trace another line for the front seam allowance with another centimeter all the way up. From the top, from the waistline, I want you to add an extra line at 1.5 centimeter higher because the side seam curve needs more length than the center back. So now we're ready to do the dart. So the dart area is going to be 7.8 centimeter with the calculation. And from that point you're going to measure towards the side seam the size of the dart. My back dart, I want it 3 cm, and you're going to find the middle point. From the middle point you're going to square a line towards the hip line and trace it all the way. Now what we're missing the length of the dart. In the back you have two choices. You could use the 2/3 hip to waist measurement or the 3/4. I'll be using the 3/4 today. So from the waist I measure down 3/4 of the measurement. You could do another thing right away. Just report that measurement on the hip level, and you could trace both sides of the dart using that pivot. Now, just as a reference, we're going to do a line for the waistline, and to do that we're going to need the exact point of the side seam at the waist. And if you remember, to balance your side seam you're going to do this calculation. I find 3.5. So on my raised line I'm going to put my measurement of 3.5. From the center front, on this first part of the waist, I'm going to find the middle, join the middle to the balance side seam. This is a guide for your waistline. Now we could trace right away the side seam. So from that 3/4 point that we got, I like to trace it by hand, freehand first, and then correct it with my French curve. The reason why we raise the curve is because on the body the hip line is not a line, it has a thickness, so this is giving you a little room to play. Now what we have left to do is curve the waistline. So to do that you're going to fold your plan, fold the dart, the first side or the side that is closer to center, open, hold right below the pivot, and bring the first line over the second one. Now you will be able to trace your waistline using your French curve, and you don't go over that half point that we find. Before unfolding, I'm going to use my tracing wheel and trace to get the jug of the dart. The back is finished. Let's go on the front now. So remember to start from the second line because these are the seam allowance for both back and front. So you're going to measure 1/4 of the hip plus 0.5 ease plus the 0.5 because it's the front and we removed it on the back, so we're adding it back right there. You put your measurement and square a line towards the top and towards the bottom. That's going to be your center front. Now we're ready for the dart in the front, but before doing the waistline, I'm going to ask you to raise your waist in the front 8 millimeters, so 0.8, because the front is usually a little higher than the back, the center back. Measure 8 millimeters, and I'm going to square for a little while. Now we're going to do the placement of the dart. Again, from my paper, placement of the dart. And just like we did for the back, I'm going to measure my dart towards the side seam. So it's 2 cm, and I find the middle. Now you're going to trace a square line from the middle point towards the hip. And the length of the dart in the front is usually halfway, so half of 21 centimeters. You could connect your pivot to both sides. Also, just like we did in the back, you're going to find a half measurement from the center front to first side of the dart. You're also going to measure your balance side seam measurement that we got. So on the raised 1.5 line. And also, like we did in the back, you're going to connect the half to the side seam just as a guideline for the curve. Fold your dart So first side of the dart, open, hold your paper just a little bit under the pivot and fold the first side over the second side of the dart. Now you'll be able to use your French curve and trace your waistline. When you're done, you could use your tracing wheel to trace the jog. We're not going to trace right away the side seam because I want you to report the one we got on the back on your front. So to do that, you're going to fold on the middle line of the side seam and then trace with your tracing wheel to report your back curve on the front. Now your plan is complete. You just have one thing left to do. It's to put the seam allowance where we don't have it yet. So that means top part of the side seam and the waistline needs seam allowance. Now the information on the pattern piece, we could start with the grain line, so they are parallel to the center. Information for the cutting, so the front will be unfold since I didn't put seam allowance, and it's going to be cut one time. The back, we have the zipper, so cut two. We're going to need a hip level notch. We're going to need the notch for the dart, back and front. And since I put a 2 centimeter on center back, I'm going to put 2 centimeter notch to indicate the wider seam allowance. The last thing is going to be the punch hole. So punch hole is 1 centimeter up on the middle line. And we're ready to cut. Now before to cut your skirt in the fabric, I'm going to add two last notch for the zipper because you do need an opening. So you place your zipper, the top part 2 to 3 millimeters from the top, and indicate your notch just over the middle stopper. The second notch would be 1 centimeter below. So make all your notch on your pattern and cut in fabric. That's all for today. I see you next time. Thanks for watching.